Welcome to Insider's Viewpoints, job roles in software engineering teams. In this video, we will hear from experts discussing the various job roles you can expect to work with on your software engineering team.
Yeah, so on the engineering team I worked with, we had a product manager, we had a tech lead, we had a few QA analysts or test engineers, and we also had access to UX designers. And so the product manager ensured that we were on task and on track to deliver the features that we said we were going to build according to the business needs. That way we're not left behind.
Yeah, I think in my experience, the roles that software engineers would interact with the most, I think would, in no particular order, product managers. So the folks who are actually sort of working with the sales teams, the marketing teams, figuring out what actually needs to be built, what are customer needs, what are innovations and ideas that looking forward that you might want to invest in and build out.
We asked our experts to describe these job roles in software engineering teams in further detail.
I think software engineering these days, as it becomes more and more, it's more and more large scale, more complex, more systems at play, more considerations. There's just a lot of things to consider in today's world as a software engineer. So you often work with a project or program manager who helps you set up your timelines, helps you ensure you're meeting your goals, helps you unblock yourself, helps you keep your stakeholders up to date with what is happening with your project. So there's just a lot of pieces involved, and I think project and program managers really are there to help tie it all together.
So the product manager would always act somewhat like a scrum master. So like we would have stand-ups and we would talk about the tickets that we had in Jira, and it was like, okay, so what are you working on? What do you need help with? And are there any issues? And during that process, the product manager does ensure that we were on task and on track, and if we had any issues, he would help us to resolve it.
You'll have a software engineer who's more focused on the architecture, and they can keep the big picture in their brain more easily. And then some software engineers who are more the nitty-gritty, I'm sitting down and I am writing code, and my job is to turn business logic into computer logic. And some companies have those all split out as different roles.
I think software engineers and these roles, the more they're embedded and work closely together and actually collaborate as part of a single team, versus handing off things in a more waterfall approach. I think that's generally the best way, or one of the most effective ways, is to actually work together as much as possible. Regular check-ins, actually having brainstorming sessions, group chats that involve all the various folks from all the roles. I think close collaboration there is super key.
And at some companies, all the different hats have their own titles. So you might be talking to a software engineer who's actually doing more kind of DevOps, infrastructure building, monitoring and alerting kinds of work. And then there's a software engineer who's also doing QA work, and they're the ones who are focusing on pipelines and continuous development, continuous integration type projects, working on getting test suites and automation all set up.
In terms of working with the UX designer or the UX engineer, they would give me specific specs from Figma in order to meet the certain specifications of the business. And let's say we're building a checkout page, so the UX designer would design the checkout page in Figma and then deliver that spec to me, and then I would code it according to the design.
UX designers who actually come up with if you are working on and engineering a user interface, you'll work with UX designers to essentially, from the moment of sketching out sort of a draft on paper or a whiteboard of an idea, all the way down to working with them on mocks and implementing the mocks and iterating on those. UX researchers often are worked with when you actually need to go out and do research in market and interview your partners or customers to get sort of as real time as possible and just real feedback from real users of your software.
So once I code something, I get it reviewed by my tech lead or my senior engineer. It would go to QA for them to test the application to ensure that whatever I did or implemented didn't break anything. If something is broken that I didn't catch, the QA tester would write up like a test plan or would do like a detailed testing document. That way I understood exactly what needed to be resolved, and I would resolve it and then go back to the QA person and say, hey, this is fixed, can you take a look at it again? And they would tell me whether or not it's fixed and whether or not something else was broken, which often happens with code.
So, you generally work a lot with product managers because you need to know what to build. They generally give you a lot of guidance on what they want to build, and you collaborate with them in terms of how to build it and discuss trade-offs and timelines and expectations. So it's a very much a collaborative process.
Typically, I have found that I interact most with product owners. So either at some places it's been a customer who works inside the company, and so I go to them quite frequently for questions on clarifying refinements, for getting test schedules up and running, for figuring out pain points and trying to optimize their workflows using technology to support them.
Software engineers work often with site reliability engineers, or sysadmins as maybe the role could be called, to actually maintain and help run the software and deploy it and actually get it running somewhere that's not on your desktop. You often work with more dedicated test engineers who are responsible for end-to-end testing, automated testing, integration testing at all points of the life cycle.
So as an engineer, you're never alone, you're never working alone. It's just a matter of knowing how to communicate directly with the people on your team.